Part 2 of the psyche of stress, depression, and suicide, training of the mind. When discussing the second technique of mind strengthening, it is important to understand the traits of a typical untrained mind that can easily fall into a state of misery. Mind latches onto events, especially negative events. Imagine a happy or unhappy event has occurred. It occurs once, but the mind gets attached to the situation, the sensations of happiness or misery it caused, and plays it repeatedly from the mind memory, causing repeated elation or distress. Unfortunately, the mind is a magnet for imaginary negative possible future events such as job loss, health issue, financial loss, reputation, etc. The mind keeps playing imaginary negative scenario again and again, driving the person crazy. Mind does not know moderation. There is no common scale to measure or compare the level of craving or aversion as it is subjective to each person. Let's make a feeble attempt to calibrate. Imagine very realistically that you win a lottery of rupees 1 million 3 months in a row. But in the fourth month, it is unlikely that winning a 10,000 rupees lottery will give you much happiness. You will, in all likelihood, feel unhappy. So during happy times, you unconsciously calibrate mind memory, set level to or expectation to a high level, and nothing lower than this level will please you. Likewise, setting of this mind memory set level or expectation process happens for all emotional traits. A person who gets very angry almost always gets very angry. This is where the trouble begins. Unless you master the art of regulating the expectation set level, one is bound to feel miserable, often if expectations are not met. Problem of diverting the mind. Most forms of entertainment help us to divert mind instead of facing the situation. We get into activities to lighten us up, like going to movies, sensual act, party, intoxication, etc. Those who are religious visit temple, partake in religious rituals, or listen to mantras and chantings. This makes them feel better and positive in general. But since suffering is at the subconscious level, even though we divert the conscious mind, the subconscious continues to knock at the door, reminding the conscious mind of the unhappiness and continues to cause suffering. As a result of the above traits of the mind, the painful incidents of life, though relegated to the subconscious during healing, continue to simmer as latent lava that permeate back into the conscious mind, generating reactions as per the mind memory system. While one can use the diversion tactics to divert the conscious mind away from the thought or the problem, the latent thought keeps jumping up from the subconscious every now and then, giving one an unhappy, sinking feeling at the back of the mind. Even when we fall asleep, this unhappy feeling is the last thought and it's the first thought as we wake up. In fact, it also keeps playing in the mind when we are sleeping or dreaming. The more desperately we try to push it away, the more it keeps silently ringing in the background. Some organizations give a simple solution to reduce negativity of the mind. As per them, simply think positive and replace a negative thought by a positive affirmation. But is this really simple? Can you fiddle with your own conscious subconscious mind so easily? Easier said than done, isn't it? Let's understand how attachment and aversion develops in the mind, how it becomes a friend or foe depending on the situation. Body, which is matter, and the mind are entwined like hardware and software in a modern device. As the mind thinks and rolls in emotions, corresponding biochemical secretions occur in the body. The secretions produce sensations in our bioelectric energy bodies, and these sensations in turn are experienced by the mind. So the interaction between mind and matter happens all the time in a perfect interdependent loop. The cycle is thus: 1. Mind has a thought. 2. This thought releases secretions in the body. 3. Secretions cause sensations in the body. And 4. The sensations are interpreted as positive or negative by the mind, resulting in a feeling of happiness or sadness. This four-step cycle may seem lengthy, but it is occurring in a split second all over again and again. The fourth step of interpretation of sensation into positive or negative sensation is complex and is fashioned by our past experiences and retained in deep subconscious. Let's call it mind memory. When a sensation interpreted as positive occurs, the mind generates a happy feeling. The story does not end here. As soon as the happy feeling gets over, the mind wants more of it, and this results in generation of a habit pattern called craving. Similarly, when a sensation interpreted as negative occurs, unhappy feelings ensue, and the mind tries to push it away, resulting in a habit pattern we regard as aversion. Let's call this mind memory response system. Mind memory develops separately for all traits such as lust, anger, greed, jealousy, etc. No matter how hard one tries with logical reasoning, a person will continue to respond predictably with the related trait in the same way again and again, unless he can change the mind memory response system of the trait. Mind memory response is why we have habits. Every time we give into a habit, the mind memory is reinforced further, making the habit stronger. That's why breaking habits grows tougher with time and age. Every person has a unique mind memory, just like every person has a unique physical look. So everyone keeps repeating the same habitual pattern of predictable reactions to situations throughout life. The mind starts learning this craving and aversion very early in life, like during infancy or even before that. Previous life, but let's say during infancy for now. That's why you see even small babies react with craving and aversion. A human life is a continuous pattern of cravings and aversions, second after second, from the first breath to the last, or even beyond. People have varied response to a situation. A bad or unhappy situation is intolerable for one person, but tolerable for the other simply because the first person's mind is filled with a higher degree of craving and aversion, whereas second person's mind has a more balanced or equanimous state, and his mind memory response system is not as highly attached to the outcomes of craving and aversion, so perhaps he lives a simple life. While most of us live life unaware of the intricacies of the mind, a true seeker sets on the path to train the mind to control and keep it in the state of equanimity. What is required to train the mind? To achieve the state of equanimity or balanced mind, we spoke about earlier, a lot of mental training is required. The idea is to break the fourth step of interpretation in the chain of thought, secretion, sensation, interpretation cycle. To achieve this, one needs to remove mental focus from the outer five senses of the world and observe the sixth sense, that is the activity of the mind. So with mind one itself, one must watch the mind's thoughts and see how the reactions to these thoughts occur in the mind and the body, with an aim to contain the reactions to thoughts and situations. This process is called meditation. All serious meditations have an element of mental control, but mindfulness is one meditation which is practiced widely in today's world, as even householders can learn and practice it at home with relative ease. Depending on a person's previous experience and mind memory response system, his mind could be at a very low level of equanimity, but with practice, slowly over time as one's meditation practice deepens, the mind memory response and hence reaction to cravings and aversions weakens. Alongside this, mind afflictions of lust, anger, greed, attachment also dissipate. A 100% equanimous state of mind is called nirvana or liberation, a stage where a person is no longer subjugate to happiness or unhappiness in response to the situations as they present themselves. This state has many names: total equanimity, fully balanced, pure mind, or Sat Chit Anand, the eternal peaceful state of mind. Take for example Jesus Christ or the Buddha. Can you imagine them reacting to bad sensations angrily and a good situation by jumping up with joy? No. You expect them to be in equanimity or balanced state. At this stage, no amount of customary pain or anguish can cause suffering to the mind of a person. This is a state achieved by great saints like Jesus Christ or Buddha, who do not have any mental reaction even during extreme forms of physical torture. Their minds are full of compassion, even for those who are out to torture them. Remember the last words of Jesus: Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. Remember, there is a difference between an indifferent state of mind and an equanimous or balanced state of mind, but we will not get into this detail at this point. A small note on meditation. All meditations help, but mindfulness is recommended as it can be learnt in a retreat or ashram and then practiced easily at home by householders. There is no need to renounce the world for spiritual pursuit. The learning can be life-changing if practiced rigorously. Here you learn to face the problem, take it head on and not let the mind feel weak. You observe the situation as a part of ever-changing universe where good times pass and so shall the bad. Easier said than done though. Meditation practices must be learned while life is under control and not as a knee-jerk reaction to the situation. One cannot learn to swim in a turbulent river as the learning happens in calm waters. The discussion above is inspired by the well-known meditation practice Vipassana, taught by late Shri S.N. Goenka ji. Let us compare the mind of ancient and modern man with reference to the mind training process. If we go back a few centuries, mind was both healed and trained automatically by life situations. We discussed already the tough living conditions of the ancient man as compared to the comfortable and safe living of contemporary man. Survival instinct trained the mind of the ancient man to work with patience under extreme circumstances, training it to be strong by experience. There was no need to feel depressed, not much to brood over, and the future was not a worry. Life was lived for today, and people were happy with merely surviving. Life in the modern times is comfortable and relatively fun filled in comparison. No dire situations requiring a mind numbing fight or flight response, no running around for food, no serious wars. Physical tasks are easily done by machines. Most diseases can be managed with medical, over the counter, or prescription drugs that are easily available. Heck, you don't even need to teach the mind to tolerate headache, as you can pop a pill and avoid the agony of pain. AC and heaters help to alleviate the environmental discomfort. Comfortable living of the privileged has further added to the issue. People at lower strata of society seem no less happy, or even in some cases happier, going about their day despite apparent lack of money and comforts. Why would this be? Because depending on life situations, the mind sets a level of expectation and responds with happiness or unhappiness measured against this level. The mind of an unprivileged person is unconsciously set to a lower set expectation level due to his circumstances, and so is able to find happiness in smaller things of life. Take, for example, a situation where a rich kid and a poor kid are forced to travel in an overcrowded bus. The rich kid, who normally travels in a lavish, chauffeur-driven car, will probably cover the journey in extreme anguish, standing in the vehicle without air conditioning, full of sweaty people, and is stopping now and then to pick up and drop people. He could have happily been playing his video game at the back of his luxury car. At the same time, poor kid's mind is enjoying the ride as he gazes out the window and sees the world going about its daily routine. He is busy thinking about the treat of tasty dish his mother promised for the weekend, and afterwards fondly looks forward to playing cricket with his neighborhood friends in the street in front of the house. Another factor for the higher prevalence of discontent in the rich could be that they have more to lose and more time to worry at hand. So the mind is filled with anxiety and creates imaginary situations. Any wonder why the depression and suicide rate is higher in the Western world? Mind is mostly filled with anxiety. People do not laugh as much and tend to be short-tempered. Slightest inconvenience, such as unfulfilled need, an argument, traffic jam, is enough to cause frayed tempers and fistfights. Hence, the modern mind, especially that of the privileged, has only partially learnt the vital emotional qualities of a balanced mind, i.e., gratitude, patience, acceptance, and tolerance, limiting one's ability to face adversity. The untrained mind can thus quickly fall into abyss of negativity and depression. No wonder the rate of suicide has gone up in the modern world. There is one thing that works in the favor of rich, though. Having experienced the futility of wealth to buy happiness, they can spare time and energy to explore the spiritual dimension of life and human mind. Is it any surprise that the two revered Indian souls that achieved enlightenment were princes, Gautama the Buddha and Mahavira? This is the end of part 2. Next we will discuss how stress, when unchecked for long, translates